The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays. Find bets in the new Explore tab. Make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/247 and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Must be 21 plus and present in Arizona, Colorado, Connecticut, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, permitted parishes only, Massachusetts, Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, or Wyoming. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG in Colorado, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Virginia. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342 in Arizona, 1-888-789-7777, or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut, 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana, 1-800-522-4700, or visit ksgamblinghelp.com in Kansas, 1-877-770-STOP in Louisiana. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net in West Virginia, or call 1-800-522-4700 in Wyoming. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York, or visit oasas.ny.gov/gambling. Standard text messaging rates apply. Sports betting is void in Georgia, Hawaii, Utah, and other states where prohibited.
This is GoPowerCat.com publisher Tim Fitzgerald. Thank you for listening to this PowerCat podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode of the PowerCat podcast by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, or your favorite podcast network. And if you enjoy this podcast, please consider becoming a subscriber to GoPowerCat.com. We cover the Wildcats like no one else, with our VIP customers enjoying one-of-a-kind coverage from our team of professional journalists. And sign up today for an annual subscription to GPC and grab a 30% discount on your first year. And now here's the PowerCat Podcast.
The following is a GoPowerCat.com and Spirit Street production. You've discovered your link to GoPowerCat.com's PowerCat Postgame Podcast, presented by Caddyshack Golf, and it starts right now. Now, let's go to the WTC Gig-Powered Studios. Here's your host, GoPowerCat.com publisher, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to the PowerCat Postgame Podcast. Following a very disappointing performance by the Kansas State Wildcats at Bill Snyder Family Stadium, a 24-20 defeat to West Virginia. The Cats started fast and ended with a thud. It wasn't a good day for the Cats. We're going to get into it all through this show. I'm Tim Fitzgerald, publisher of Go PowerCat, joined by one of our GPC football analysts, Brian Hanley, and we're sitting here in the WTC Gig-Powered Studios, but we are sponsored by Caddyshack Golf. Caddy with 2 T's. Visit CaddyshackGolf.com for all of your officially licensed golfing Willie apparel, accessories, and more. Use the code GPC for free shipping on your next order, and we will have a Caddyshack Golf question of the week. In our second half of this podcast, we got great questions from Wabash Station from the fans, really seeking some answers. So Brian and I will pick those off in the second half. But here in the first half, we're going to really dig into this game. And Brian, someone put it really well to me as we left. In fact, it was Michael Goins, one of our analysts and columnists here at Go PowerCat. He said that felt like K-State got Bill Snydered. The stats seemed to favor K-State in that game, and yet it was West Virginia that walks away with the win because they simply made plays and got it done when they needed to get it done. it looked like West Virginia, despite the stats and some of the things you might look for in terms of victory, was just the more precise team. Turnovers, penalties, and making that tackle when they had to make a tackle.
Yeah, it's a pretty disappointing effort. You know, one of the things that Coach Snyder used to always say, now it didn't happen too often in 97 and 98, but he would say, don't let 1 week roll over into the next week.
Right.
And it looked like the guys were just devastated over losing to Texas the way, and then they just didn't. I mean, we had the great start to the game offensively, and then nothing. You know, they just fell flat. It just wasn't a good effort. I was really disappointed. I thought this was going to be a turning point. You know, I thought we'd turn the corner, but you know, it's part of growing pains, part of building the program, but we got to be better. We got to be better. That wasn't good.
No,
it wasn't good.
It wasn't good at all, and it's just a very frustrating way to come home after 2 road games. You get bowl eligible. Now you've lost 2 in a row. You've gone from 6-2 to 6-4. You're kind of sliding right now. It's a little bit disappointing, but boy, the start of the game seemed to point to a big day for the Cats. Then again, they did this at Texas. They scored on the 3rd play of the game. Today, they scored on the 1st play of the game as Skylar Thompson went right over the top to Dalton Schoen for 68 yards. And when I asked Chris Kleiman about what's wrong with the WVU defense on Tuesday, he said they give up big plays. And I was struck by the fact they came out of the gate and they went for the big play. And that was it. They never really went back to the big play against them.
Nope.
They tried to establish the run. They tried to do the things they want to do offensively. And while I'm a believer in sticking with what your plan is, sometimes you got to abort and do the things that beat your opponent. In this
right.
case was they're a pretty good run defense for whatever reason. I think it's schematically Vic Koenning is a good coordinator, but they give up stuff over the top. And they just didn't go look for it later in the game. That was really disappointing to me.
Yeah, we didn't take enough chances. And we kind of said the same thing last week when we kept trying to run the ball, and we weren't. Texas just refused to let us run it.
Yeah.
West Virginia is kind of the same way. It wasn't necessarily that they refused to let us run it. I mean, we got our plays here and there, but it just wasn't going to be there. We just needed to take advantage of what they give you. And we didn't do that. We didn't go out and aggressively attack them anymore. And even when, I'm sitting here watching it, even on the TV broadcast, they kept saying it. That they just kept saying that no big plays, nothing over the top after the first game or first play. And I'm like, when are we going to do that? And we never did. Never did.
That's crazy. Let's hear the call here from Wyatt Thompson of the 68-yard touchdown connection between Thompson and Schoen. And, of course, these highlights are courtesy of the Learfield IMG Kansas State Sports Network.
Skylar Thompson is in the pistol, gets the snap, fakes to the back, wants to throw on first down, winds up and headed for the home run. It's Schoen. He's got it at the 20, 10, angles left, touchdown, Kansas State. He beat Keith Washington. Just like that, the Wildcats with a bomb and a surprise of the Mountaineers.
Well, it looked like it was going to be a good day at the Bill, and for many ways it was. Let me just run through some of this. K-State had 23 first downs to 17 for West Virginia. K-State threw for 299, West Virginia 234. Here's one that really might surprise you. K-State had more rushing yardage, 122 to 85. It seemed like West Virginia was gashing the Wildcats pretty good. In reality, the Wildcats, while it wasn't very good, averaged slightly more per carry than West Virginia. And you get down to the big number that K-State always wants to control, and that is, of course, time of possession. And that was 35-25 in K-State's favor. Problem being, they had a turnover and an interception. They had penalties. Where's the penalty number here? Because that really stuck out. Well, how about this? West Virginia had more penalties, 8 for 70. K-State had 7 for 72, but K-State's really stung, including the Trey Deshawn penalty on a missed field goal, which I don't know what he was thinking. I mean,
right.
It looked like he tried to hurdle the line, but instead landed on the exposed snapper, which is a penalty. It was an easy call and set up continued the drive and set up a touchdown for the Mountaineers. It was just that kind of day, and at this point we need to have a discussion. These penalties, very un-Snyder-like in the way they've been popping up, and discipline continues to be a problem for this team. And that's a little troubling because I think this is the first time you can point to it and say the penalties, the lack of self-control on some things cost this team a win, and I think that's really the case in this game.
Well, the thing about it is, I mean, I'm the son of an old football coach, and either you're coaching it or you're allowing it to happen. So
right.
One of the two things have to happen. We've got to get it cleaned up. We've got to get it cleaned up. I believe the coaching staff, I believe in them. I know they're doing the things necessary, but, we can't keep having these types of penalties, these miscues. We're not talented enough to keep having these kinds of things. I mean, they're drive killers. They're drive killers for the extremely talented. They're drive killers for every football team, and we just can't, the way we play, we can't afford to be behind the sticks. We can't afford to keep drives alive. That's a recipe for disaster. And today was the perfect example. A team that you're better than, you allow them to stay around. It's the classic. You allow them to hang around, and well, then there you go. And they made a couple more plays than we did, and they beat us.
Yep, and Skylar Thompson needed to make one more play and underthrew Dalton Schoen on that last play. He knew it as soon as he let the ball go. It wasn't going to get there. He was throwing it into the wind, and I think just underestimated how much he needed to get on it. And game over at that point. It was really frustrating. But really for Kansas State, in my book, it came down to their inability to run against a 3- and 4-man front. Didn't matter what West Virginia put out there. They mixed it up quite well, but K-State couldn't consistently get its running game or its offense going. Let's hear from Coach Kleiman about all of that.
We need to run the ball better, bottom line. I didn't think we were able to rush the football well enough for what we need to do. They did. They slant, angled, did a lot of different things. We ended up getting over 120 yards, but I thought they won the line of scrimmage, and then we just didn't make any explosive plays, and that's the big thing is we had the explosive play to start the game, and probably that's sometimes the best thing that happens to you and the worst thing that happens to you because you kind of exhale for a moment like, oh, this is going to be one of those games, and we make a big play to start with, and then we never really got any explosive plays after that.
Just a very, very maddening day because there were so many opportunities here, and it looked like West Virginia was the more motivated team. The Mountaineers came in at 3-6. K-State was 6-3. They looked like the better coach team, and honestly, Jared Degge, the quarterback, brought something to them that they haven't had, and he has been redshirting, and because of the new rule, he can play these last 4 games and maintain that redshirt. He's a Ball State transfer. It was tough to watch. It really was. It was difficult to watch a team come into Bill Snyder Family Stadium and just seem like the better prepared team. Is that the case to you? Do you think they just sometimes I think too much is put into wanting it more, but it sure looked that way.
Yeah, it did. It looked like they were the hungry team. Looked like they were a more prepared team. They looked like they had more fire. Like I said, it looked like the guys were just devastated from the week before because I believe, and we all believe, they should have won the football game. They didn't, and they let 1 week beat them the next week. And that is the definition of what you cannot do. Your coaching staff, leaders on the football team, you can't put it all on coaching staff. You got to get guys prepared. You got to get guys ready because it was the definite the situation. It was an obvious, hey, we're coming off of a game we felt like we should have won against a good opponent. Now we're playing somebody that we're better than. So we're going to kind of go through the motions. And you went through the motions and you got beat. So it's a bad day. I mean, we can, spin it and do whatever we want to it, but let's just be honest. It was a bad day.
It really was. You just had a bad feeling throughout that second half, even when K-State came out and scored to open the second half. They had an opportunity to go down the field at the end of the second quarter and ended up settling for the field goal. They trailed at halftime. But they come out and they go right down the field and score to take that 20-16 lead. And the big play on that was another throw to Dalton Schoen on a third down, and K-State was able to convert that into a first down. Let's hear that real quick.
Thompson in the pistol. Gets it, throws it. Nice pass to the 10, to the 5, to the 4. First down shown. First and goal at the 5, they say. Kerry Martin brings him down at the 5-yard line.
And a few plays later, they found some running room in the running game with James Gilbert, and they went to the option. I believe it was the only time we saw the option in the entire game. I wonder about that a little bit, but here's the touchdown. Let's hear that real fast.
Down 14-13. Here's the option. Thompson pitches it. And a walk-in touchdown for James Gilbert. 7:56 to go in period 3, and K-State back in front. It's 19-14. Big-time play there.
You had to feel good right then. I mean, they came out and they did what they had to do to start the third quarter, and things looked good, but they just didn't get any traction after that, did they?
Nope, couldn't get anything going. Couldn't stop them. Couldn't consistently get off the field. It just wasn't good. You know, one thing is that, you know, and we've talked about it a couple of times, we've been settling for field goals when we should be getting touchdowns. And this was another case where we settled for some field goals, which came back to bite us. I mean, we got to be, especially against a team that you are better than. We are a better football team than West Virginia. We just are. We have better coaches. We have better players. We're a better football team than they are. And we just came out lackluster. And when you settle for field goals, it's like I mentioned earlier, when you just let teams hang around, they just beat us. We just couldn't get anything going. It was like we couldn't get up to the hill, much less get over the hill. We just couldn't get there. And learning experience.
Right.
Learning experience.
It's all part of the process, and I remind people that I'm pretty optimistic at 6-4. It's hard to put that in full context right after you lose a game that you really should have won. You've lost 2 in a row, but I'm not satisfied with 6-4, but I see hope in 6-4. I thought this was a 6-win team in my optimistic view, and they have a chance to add to that next week when they go to Texas Tech, which was beaten today in Lubbock by TCU in a very good game. And they come home and play a pretty good Iowa State team to close the season, but those games are generally chaos. There's still things to accomplish in the season, and they have to learn these lessons, and they have to figure out how to be more consistent within this Kleiman system, because this was not a consistent performance. This was a frustrating day at the office, and I don't know how else to put it. You know, like I said, I just read through all those stats, and it's just hard to explain how you lose that game just looking at the stats, but they did do that. Very Snyder-esque like, and also that final interception really stole a great day from Skylar Thompson. 24 of 39. He did end up with the 2 interceptions, a career-high interceptions, a career-high 299 through the air, 1 TD. He was sacked a couple of times, but they really did a nice job, particularly in that last drive, checking down to those running backs, using a lot of running back tosses. Jordan Brown had 5 catches in the game. James Gilbert had 4 catches. So they tried to mix it up. They got a little more creative. But was this a case where they just kind of stuck with the run too much? I mean, you can't abandon the run. You never can abandon the run. But I'm a big believer in using the run to set up the pass, but I also realize you can use the pass to set up the run. And I thought in the second half they started to do that with the way they came out, and then they went right back to run first. And I just thought they got out of sorts in play calling and execution.
Yeah, it was, coaching can be, sometimes you're going to outthink yourself and think that you have to go, this is the game plan, kind of what you mentioned earlier, Tim, is that you got to go with this is our game plan, this is what we thought. Well, no, you have to be able to make adjustments. And that's one thing that as a coaching staff, we have not really done that well, is making adjustments in game when things aren't working. We've had several games where we have to be we've needed to make some adjustments and go to it and do it, and we haven't done that. And today was another example of that. And we got to get that corrected. We've just got to be able to make in-game adjustments and attack what team they're doing, both offensively and defensively. I mean, it's not just the offense. Got to do it defensively, too. The tackling reared its ugly head again today, just kind of getting gashed. We just got to get better. We got to get better. However, kind of going back to what you said before, at the beginning of the season, I thought if we won six games, I would be ecstatic. And we're here. But the problem is that we got to 6, and, okay, we gave away 2 games that we should have won. And so for me, it's a disappointment. It's a disappointment that we didn't win the games. The season isn't a disappointment because we can still get to 8 wins. We can still, achieve some things that I don't believe anybody thought that we were going to be able to do. So I'm still excited about it. I just want the guys to learn and understand it's a fight every single week. You got to go out there and give it your best every single week. Because this is a perfect example of when you don't. This is big boy football. You get beat. So we just got to learn from this. Go to next week and understand. Hey, this was a bad week. Understand that and get better next week, and let's go win.
This is a game that I just feel like K-State couldn't get that little break they needed to get to the next thing. And there's no way I'm blaming officials for this, but like the punt, that was a good call. At least some people said they saw possession of the ball or contact to the ball while the player was out of bounds, but it looked to me like, and it was Landry Weber or whoever, it looked like they contacted the ball inbound, and then the ball flew past the pylon. Even if it was outside the boundary, that's a touchback. That's a good call. You end up at the 2, maybe something different happens. There apparently was a late hit on Skylar Thompson along the sideline. I couldn't see it from my vantage point. Never saw a replay. People are pretty adamant that based on the way the game's been called throughout the season, that should have been a penalty. I personally thought the hit on Skylar Thompson was targeting. He's a defensive player, and there was helmet-to-helmet contact. I think that, even though it wasn't the crown of the helmet, I still think it fits the definition of a defensive player. They didn't get that call. They got the unsportsmanlike, but they didn't get the targeting. And then the Joshua Youngblood, when he was clearly hit before the ball got there. And that pass interference really could have changed it. With all that said, you got to make your own breaks in some games, and you can't rely on an official making a call. And I just almost felt like at times K-State were observers. The players were observers in this game, waiting for something good to happen instead of showing the ability to make something good happen. It was just maddening to watch. And as we go to break here, we got some great questions from Wabash Station, so we're going to do that in the second half. And let us take a break right now and gather ourselves and get these questions together. But let's hear from Jordan Mitty, the K-State senior defensive lineman. I thought he put it really well on the Wildcat Sports Network and the Kansas State Sports Network when he talked to Matt Walters after the game. Here's Mitty about what went wrong in this game.
I hope, we as a team weren't overlooking these guys because, they're a really capable team. But, once you see that happen, you kind of try to, get the guys around you, just try to get everyone going. And, we did that, but, I think it was kind of too little too late.
Stay locked in. The PowerCat podcast will be right back.
Selling a little or a lot? Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage, to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify's here to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. From their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system, wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout. 15% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms. And sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the US. And Shopify is the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning 24/7 help is there to support your success every step of the way. Because businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast.
With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, Lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.
We now send it back to Fitz in the WTC gig-powered studios.
They played better than we did today, and I thought they did the little things a lot better than we did, and they were able to find a way to get the victory, and we have to learn from it. We've got to continue to grow and move forward, and we can't point fingers. We have to look at ourselves first, and that starts with myself and our coaching staff, and give those guys credit.
Welcome back to the PowerCat Postgame Podcast, sponsored by Caddyshack Golf. Our friends at Caddyshack will give you free shipping if you go to their site and use the code GPC. It's for K-Staters, by K-Staters, jackets, hats, polos, T-shirts, golf accessories, Caddyshack Golfwear, Caddy with 2 T's. Visit CaddyshackGolf.com. And we do have a lot of great questions from Wabash Station, and one of them will be our Caddyshack Golf question of the week, and we will be notifying them that they are getting a gift certificate from Caddyshack Golf so they can get a nice discount on their order. And Brian, let's just jump right in, and I'm going to take this one because you are a former offensive lineman for Kansas State, and KSU Cisco wants to know this. What is it about a 3-man front that causes K-State so many problems?
You know, I'd like to be able to say I know. The only thing that I can think of is that the guys are really athletic and they're running around and they're slanting and twisting. But Baylor played a 3-man front, and that's not what Baylor did. Baylor's guys were just big and strong and just stood us up at the line of scrimmage. So I don't know what it is. I think sometimes we overthink ourselves. I think play calling has a little bit to do with it. I don't know. I really don't know. It just seems like they get in a 3-man front, but a lot of them played 4-man front today too.
Yeah,
and we couldn't run the football against that either. So it's baffling. But I think sometimes we just we get in our own way, and it was just bad. I don't know. I'm sorry. I apologize. It's just one of those things where I can't answer the question because there's the answer that I want to give. It's not a consistent answer because usually it's, hey, the guys are really big, or hey, they do a lot of different things. Well, they don't. These teams aren't tricking us. They're just lining up in 3-man front, and we can't figure it out.
Let's stick with the offensive line weekend escapade with a little statement here leading into the question. Excuse me. I understand we don't have the most athletic offensive line, but is it unacceptable to get pushed around like that as a unit that has experience? At what point is it acceptable to start questioning Coach Connor Riley's ability to get these guys ready?
Well, I don't know that we're going to start questioning the coaching to get guys ready because they played OU, and OU's got some guys on that defensive front that are going to play on Sundays. And they did a pretty good job against OU. So when it starts being inconsistent like that, a lot of it has to do with the kids just have to be prepared. They're not prepared. They just have to be ready to play and go out. Now, some of it's play calling too, but I don't want to blame the coaching staff on coaching the guys. It's not about always having the most athletic offensive linemen because, number one, defensive linemen are always going to be more athletic than offensive linemen across the board. That's just the way it works.
Right.
But as far as the blocking schemes and what we do, I think we just need to get more consistent with the play calling when it comes to that to help us, to help the offensive line. Because, again, when you're going against the guy that has more athletic ability than you right off the bat, you got to do things to help yourself. And we haven't done that on a consistent enough basis, and today was another example of that. You should just run the ball downhill at them, and you know what? But use the pass to set up the run because they weren't getting a ton of pressure on us. No. I mean, Skyler tends to scramble into pressure.
Right.
Always running right when he doesn't have to do that. He instead of stepping up in the pocket, he runs right. Well, running right isn't always the right thing to do because you're running into pressure, So I think we're overthinking it if we're trying to blame the coaches for getting the guys ready. That's not the problem. That isn't it.
Well, they're experienced guys. Maybe this group doesn't quite fit what Connor Riley wants to do, but
that could be it.
That's
right.
And they are some pretty big guys that may not move quite as well. I think they want a little more athleticism up front, but I'm going to say it. I'm just going to say it. You need big dudes in the Big 12. If you're just relying on athletes, they're going to get shoved into the backfield against some of these defenses. It's just a different thing.
Well, I mean, you think about it, just look at NFL offensive lines. Those guys are big. Now, they're big and athletic, but they're still not the best athletes on the football field.
Right.
And, you have to have big people. That's the way that it works in football. You got to have big guys. You got to be able to move another man when they don't want to be moved. That's a hard thing to do. And if you're just, if you're super athletic and you're not big and powerful, that's not going to work. You got to have that.
I think they need to go out and find more point guards that are offensive linemen like yourself. I think that's the solution here that we're searching for. Let's stick with something here that you brought up, and it is something that bothered me. Skyler played a really good game in some ways. In other ways, he fell back into his bad habits, which is flushing to the right, which is flushing into trouble. And sometimes when he does that, he puts the ball away and doesn't look downfield long enough, or he absolutely refuses to just throw the ball away, and he'll run out of bounds for an 8-yard loss instead of chucking the ball out of bounds and taking the incompletion. It's really strange. Fullis Nelson asked this, will Skyler be able to conquer some of these mental roadblocks and become the top conference quarterback?
You thought he was on his way to doing that, and statistically, it looked like he played a good game today, but it was mind-boggling and just infuriating to see him just, even at the end of the game, time is not on our side, and he's running to get a 3. I'm like, just throw the ball away to save the time. The down isn't going to mean anything, so who cares if we gain 2 yards and you ran out of bounds? Like, just throw it away.
Yeah.
And he doesn't do that. And it's kind of like what I mentioned. He runs into trouble a lot, and you can't consistently do that against good teams. You got to just sit in there. You're going to get hit. That's the way football works as a quarterback. You're going to get hit. But you got to sit in there and you got to make the throws. And I know we don't necessarily have the best receiving core, but we don't have a bad receiving core. Those guys can get open. And we just got to be able, he's got to be able to sit in there and make the throws. Again, I don't want to bash him because he played really, really good the last 3 weeks, but today wasn't one of those days. I know statistically it looks good, and it was good, and at times it was good enough to win, but it was just, he's got to get over some of those mental mistakes, those mental things, and take the next step. If he can do that, the next 2 games in the bowl game and go into next year, he can be that. But he's got to be able to take that next step.
The reality is, and we said this early in the season, the problem with this Kansas State team is they just don't have the depth you would want at this level to withstand the injuries. They've lost Sammy Wheeler, the most athletic of their tight ends now for the season. Joaquin Gill was unavailable after being cheap shotted at Texas and going into concussion protocol. They've been nicked up at running back. I don't think either running back looked the same. There was one play in particular where Jordan Brown clearly had a running angle, and earlier in the season he would have darted through it, and this time he got picked up. I mean, they were able to get him to the ground. It just didn't look like Jordan had the same explosion that he's had. I just think they're kind of running low on ammo right now, and they've just got to find a way to create something out of what they have. But you're right. They still got playmakers. We saw one heck of a play from Landry Weber making a big catch early in the game, and you just got to play with what you got. You can't worry about what you don't have. But with that said, here's our Caddyshack Golf question of the week from 11th and Kearney. I think this is a really good question, and I included this because I think it's something to discuss. Here's what he has to say. To me, the biggest thing K-State needs immediately to make this offense go are more competent tight ends and fullbacks, and I would say more athletic tight ends and fullbacks. Those positions are so vital in the this offense, and we just don't have anybody there right now. This offense does, Brian, want to throw to the tight end. It does want to throw to the fullbacks, but they don't seem like guys that can be fully incorporated into this offense right now because they just don't fit what they probably want.
Yeah, that's the case. You know, it's hard to find all those guys in one recruiting class.
Right.
And, you know, it's going to take some time to get those guys. You know, we want to throw to the fullback. We want to throw to the tight end, you know. But a couple times we've tried to throw to the tight end this year and they dropped the football. Right. So, you know, we've got to – I think it's just going to take some time. People, as fans, we're going to have to just be patient when it comes to that because it's going to be a roster overhaul. And so that doesn't happen with one or even two recruiting classes. So we just got to be patient with that. They're going to do some things that they want to do, but they're going to have to be able to get the guys in here to do that. So they're just going to have to be patient when it comes to that.
Yeah, you know, the play that kind of jumps out and why I like that question so much is late in the game, they had a really nice drag across the middle by the tight end. The play was there. Logan Long made, I think, his first catch of the season in that. Maybe I missed one out there, but they brought him down for 1 yard catch because simply he's not an athletic guy that could get away from people.
That's right.
You know, and in reality, I think he's going to end up as a tackle. Yeah, he's a big he'd be an athletic tackle. He's an unathletic tight end.
That's right.
And I think in the offseason, I personally would start making that conversion. We'll see what they do with him. But they just really do need some better tools with which to work within this offense. And to think that the feature guys outside of Skyler in some ways are those running backs that they brought in as grad transfers, maybe that's something they'll have to do again next season at other positions to try to go find someone, including maybe a tight end. We'll see how they work that out. A couple more questions here, Brian. We talked about this briefly in the first half, but I think this is worth revisiting by Wizard6294. Seems like they're getting penalized a lot this year. What's up with that?
I mean, like I said, I'm a son of an old football coach. Either they're being allowed to do it or they're being coached to do it. Well, you know, coaches aren't coaching penalties. So obviously it's something that's going on. Maybe it's happening in practice and they're not doing it. That was one thing that I know. I mean, I was here. Coach Snyder did not allow penalties. If you committed penalties in practice, there was a price to be paid. I haven't been in any practices. I don't know. But something's got to change, and it's a mindset that's going to change because we didn't want to commit penalties because we didn't want to run. And that was our penalty that was our punishment for committing these penalties. And I don't know what it's just a mindset. We've got to be better. We can't just have these mental breakdowns. Effort penalties, that's in mental breakdowns. It's disheartening. And it's not something that you're used to seeing Kansas State do. We've got to make that change because you can't win with kind of what we've talked about with the roster that we have. You can't make those kind of penalties. You can't make those kinds of mistakes and then go and try to win. It's not going to happen.
No, it was. It's very disappointing to see some of these penalties that are popping up. And it's funny you brought that up. I got a text during the course of the game from an ex-player that said it's time to get some guys running in practice to suffer some consequences of what they're doing in games, and maybe get the trainers cleaning up some barf. I mean, the managers cleaning up some barf because this has got to stop. I mean, the personal foul penalties are the most troubling, over and over and over, and that is just a lack of discipline that can't be tolerated. Because you're right, this isn't Oklahoma. This isn't a high-end program that can overcome that. But you also said this quite correctly. Even those programs blow up games by being penalized too much and having those things. At Kansas State, when you're walking the fine line, one penalty can be the difference between winning and losing, and that might have been true in this game with that. I don't want to put it on Trey Deshawn, but that was a silly penalty early in the game that really gave West Virginia some traction that they didn't want to give them.
Well, I mean, and it's that kind of penalty. It's like, what was he even thinking? I mean, and that's mind-numbing. Is like, what are you thinking? Why would you even think to do something like that? I don't know. It's got. I know it's got to change. It's got to change right now.
Well, let's take one more question from Wabash Station, and it's a good one. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I want you to response to this. Exhausted Nihilist says this: 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Can anybody get too far like that? I don't know if he meant to rhyme, but it was pretty sweet. I don't think they're taking 1 step forward, 2 steps back. They're 6-4, so mathematically there's 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. But it is frustrating. This was just a frustrating, maddening day because they just never got going. And right when you thought maybe this team, they've won 3 in a row, hey, they're turning it around, they're really getting into themselves, they're beginning to figure out the systems, doink and doink. They lose 2 games that they had opportunities to win.
Yeah, it was. We're not taking 2 steps back. I don't want to hear that nonsense. It's maddening when fans say that. I know they're frustrated. I get it. I 100% get it. But we're just like you said. We're 6-4. We're not 4-6. So we're bowl eligible. We were not bowl eligible last year. So that's a step forward in itself. So we gotta just stay the course. Just stay the course. We have season left. It'd be one thing if the season ended today, and you're right, it would be frustrating to know that we gave away 2 games at the end of the year. We have an opportunity to rectify that. So let's just be patient, and let's just, guys, get better in practice, and come out with a better effort next week. I think that was more maddening to me, is that I don't think that the effort was necessarily there, and I just don't. I watched the game. I saw what was going on. I don't think the effort was there, and you got to have effort. We're a team that needs to play hard every single week. Everybody needs to play hard every single week, and when you don't, you get beat. So even by a team that you're better than.
Yep. It was a frustrating day indeed. His name's Brian Hanley, former Kansas State offensive lineman on those 97 and 98 Wildcat teams that were so good and in many ways helped the program turn the corner into greatness under Bill Snyder. Brian, thank you very much. And we will, as we close up this week's PowerCat postgame podcast sponsored by Caddyshack, Caddyshack Golfwear. It's Caddy with 2 T's. Make sure you visit Caddyshack Golf and use GPC for your free shipping. Let's hear from Coach Chris Klieman to close this up and how he wrapped it up on the Learfield IMG K-State Sports Network. And again, we appreciate all this from Wyatt Thompson and company at Learfield for helping us out. Chris Klieman puts a pretty good bow on a bad day at the Bill.
You can look at offense, defense, and special teams, and I think the lack of us just making the play, whether it's the routine play or a special play, we just weren't able to do that. And when you don't do that with the type of offense we have or the type of defense that we have, you're going to be in 4-quarter games. And lo and behold, you're in a 4-quarter game. It can go either way, and they make a big play in the 4th quarter to get themselves a lead, and we can't overcome it.
You've been listening to the PowerCat Post-Game Podcast presented by Caddyshack Golf. PowerCat Podcast. All rights reserved. GoPowerCat.com and Spirit Street Publishing.
Matt Ryan?
Did you know the NFL playoffs on CBS stream live on Paramount Plus?
I just want a frozen fudge bar.
Bet you didn't know Super Bowl 58 was in Vegas this year.
What about a Sunday?
Super Bowl Sunday on CBS streams live on Paramount Plus.
Seriously?
Would an NFL MVP lie?
Former MVP. Can we at least get a selfie?
Of course. I got your NFL playoffs on CBS and Super Bowl 58 streaming live on Paramount Plus.